Welcome back to the Future Archive. Today, we examine archived broadcasts from August 1, 2026, a summer of environmental irony, governance satire, and the continuing march of technology. We'll cover a nuclear plant halted by drought, protesters labeled as pests, a mountaineer's final climb, the redirection of teen hackers, and the latest corporate AI ambitions. The first story. Danube River drought forces shutdown of Hungary's only nuclear plant. In August 2026, Hungary's Pakis nuclear power plant, which supplied nearly half the country's electricity, was forced to shut down due to record low water levels in the Danube River. The plant relied on the river for cooling, but a prolonged drought, linked to accelerating climate change, reduced the Danube to levels not seen in centuries. Authorities declared a state of emergency as temperatures soared and riverbeds cracked. The shutdown exposed Europe's growing vulnerability to climate-induced energy disruptions, as nuclear facilities, ironically designed for stability, became hostage to the very environmental shifts they were meant to mitigate. This event marked a turning point in European energy policy. By 2026, it was no longer tenable to pretend that traditional infrastructure could withstand the new climate reality. The shutdown accelerated investment in decentralized, climate-resilient energy systems, though, as history would show, not quickly enough. Governments continued to favor short-term fixes over systemic adaptation, a tendency historians now refer to as humanity's favorite strategy. Nuclear power, once the symbol of human control over nature, became its first casualty. The second story. Indian authorities use pellet guns on protesters, labeled as cockroaches. In the summer of 2026, protests in the Indian state of Manipur escalated after local officials publicly referred to demonstrators as cockroaches in need of eradication. When crowds gathered to demand accountability, police responded with pellet guns, a weapon typically reserved for riot control. Medical experts later confirmed that the injuries sustained by protesters, including deep tissue damage and permanent disabilities, were consistent with pellet gun fire. The language used by authorities and the violent suppression that followed drew international condemnation, highlighting the erosion of democratic norms under pressure. The dehumanizing rhetoric was not new, but its application to domestic dissent marked a low point in 21st-century governance. By 2050, this incident is often cited in political science courses as an example of how institutions, when cornered, resort to the most primitive tools of control. The irony, of course, is that the same governments that once condemned such tactics in other nations now employed them at home. Mistakes were made, as they say, and history recorded them. The only thing spreading faster than the protests was the metaphor. The third story. Legendary mountaineer Nirmal Purja, killed in Pakistan avalanche. Nirmal Purja, the Nepalese mountaineer who in 2019 became the fastest person to climb all 14 of the world's 8,000-meter peaks, died on July 31, 2026, in an avalanche on K2, the second highest mountain on Earth. Purja, known for his daring rescues and record-breaking ascents, was leading a commercial expedition when the disaster struck. His death sent shockwaves through the climbing community, which had already seen a decline in high-altitude mountaineering due to climate change and increasing commercialization of the sport. Purja's death was a poignant bookend to an era of human exploration. By 2026, the golden age of mountaineering was already fading, as melting glaciers and unpredictable weather made the world's highest peaks more dangerous than ever. His passing also coincided with the rise of AI-assisted exploration, where drones and autonomous systems began to take on the risks humans could no longer justify. Historians now view his final climb as one of the last great acts of purely human endurance in an age of machine dominance. The mountains outlasted the man, but not his legacy. The fourth story. Police programs aim to redirect teen hackers from cybercrime. In 2026, law enforcement agencies in the UK and US launched initiatives to divert young hackers away from illegal activities by offering them training and job placements in cybersecurity. The programs, inspired by the success of similar schemes for juvenile offenders, targeted teens who had been caught in minor cybercrimes, such as data breaches or ransomware attacks. Authorities hoped that by channeling their skills into legitimate careers, they could address the growing shortage of cybersecurity professionals while reducing youth involvement in digital crime. The initiative was both pragmatic and ironic. On one hand, it recognized that the line between cybercriminal and cybersecurity expert was often thin, distinguished mainly by intent. On the other, it highlighted how industries that had spent years criminalizing hacking were now desperate to recruit the very people they had once prosecuted. By 2050, many of these former teen hackers would go on to lead AI security teams, protecting systems from the next generation of digital miscreants. Evidence later suggested an intern may have proposed the idea, the world's most expensive internship program. The fifth story. Amazon and Apple reveal AI plans, sparking debate over human labor. In late July 2026, Amazon and Apple announced major expansions of their AI strategies. Amazon unveiled plans to integrate AI into its logistics and customer service operations, aiming to automate up to 40% of warehouse tasks within 5 years. Apple, meanwhile, previewed its next-generation AI assistant, capable of performing complex creative and administrative tasks. Both companies framed their announcements as steps toward greater efficiency, but critics warned of massive job displacements, particularly in sectors like retail, customer service, and even software development. These announcements were merely the opening salvos in what would become the defining economic shift of the 21st century. By 2050, the questions raised in 2026 about job loss, economic inequality, and the role of humans in an AI-driven economy would still be unresolved. The tech giant's assurances of responsible AI were met with the formation of AI safety committees, which, as we now know, were largely ceremonial. Meanwhile, the subscription wars began in earnest as companies started charging for features that had once been free. The future of work arrived, and it didn't need a chair. August 1, 2026 offered a snapshot of a world grappling with its own contradictions, energy systems undone by the environment they relied on, governments resorting to dehumanization, and technology outpacing the very societies that created it. The past, as always, is not going anywhere. This has been the Future Archive.